There are moments in life that never leave you. You may forget names, forget places, even forget people, but some moments bury themselves inside your chest and never let go. This is one of them. I was 12 when we moved to a small town in Kansas. My dad had lost his job in the city and said we needed a fresh start. The town was quiet. Too quiet. Nothing like the life I had known before. Just long roads, empty fields, and houses that creaked like they remembered better days. We moved into an old farmhouse on the edge of town, the kind of place with the rusty mailbox and a porch that groaned every time you stepped on it. Our neighbors were a couple in their 70s. Everyone called them Mr. and Mrs. Harris. They didn't talk much. They didn't go out much either, except on Sundays. Every Sunday morning, Mr. Harris would sit on his rocking chair with a coffee in hand, staring out at the cornfields like he was waiting for something. I didn't think much of them until I met their grandson, Eli. Eli was 16. He had a sharp jawline, messy brown hair, and eyes that always looked like they were hiding something. He wore hoodies even in the heat and hardly smiled. I met him behind the barn one afternoon. He was sitting on the grass, a cigarette in one hand, music in his ears. He didn't look at me when I said hi, just nodded. Over time, we started talking, just small things, music, weather, school. But there was something about him, something heavy, like he carried a world inside him that was too loud to ignore. One day, asked him why he always looked so tired. He laughed once, a bitter sound, and said, "Because I don't sleep." "Why not?" He shrugged. "Bad dreams." "What kind?" He looked at me then, really looked, and said, "The kind that don't end when you wake up." I didn't ask again. As weeks passed, I started noticing things. Eli would disappear for hours, sometimes days, then return looking worse than before, his eyes darker, his hands shaking. I wanted to believe it was just stress or teenage anger, but deep down, I knew it wasn't. One evening, I saw him behind the shed, bent over something in his palm. A lighter, a spoon, needle. I froze. He looked up and didn't flinch, didn't hide. He just said, "You should go." But I didn't. I sat beside him, not because I knew what to say. I didn't. But because I saw the loneliness, the pain, the hollow scream in his silence. He told me about his mother. She'd overdosed when he was 8. He found her in the kitchen, cold, with a smile on her lips. His father left a year later, just vanished. Mr. and Mrs. Harris took him in, gave him food, shelter, and love, but nothing filled the hole. "I don't do it to feel good," he said. "I do it to feel nothing." I didn't cry, not then, but my heart did. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing his words, seeing his face, watching him vanish behind those tired, broken eyes. 2 days later, I saw an ambulance outside the Harris home. He was gone, but he never really left. Not from my memory, not from my chest, not from the nights when I wake up sweating from dreams where I hear his voice begging again, "Give me opium." The words still echo. Not because of what he said, but because of what they meant. Because they were not words, they were the sound of a life unraveling, thread by thread. After his funeral, I sat on the porch of my house alone looking at the sky, trying to make sense of what I had seen. I was just a boy, but I felt older, like I had seen behind a curtain others never looked past. I started noticing things in people, the way some of my classmates talked about partying every night, the way some of the older boys bragged about pills and bottles and clouds of smoke. They all laughed, but I couldn't. I saw what they did and I saw where it ended. Years passed, but that day stayed with me. I never touched a thing, not even once, because once is all it takes. That's what no one tells you, that it doesn't need to feel dangerous, it just needs to feel easy, and most things that destroy you start that way. My mother never spoke about him again, not even when I asked. It was like she locked that memory in a room and threw away the key. But I think it was because she blamed herself. Maybe because she saw the signs and didn't act, or maybe because she wished she could have done something, anything. But that's the thing about addiction, it makes everyone feel helpless, even those who love you most. When I was 18, I volunteered at a recovery center in a small town in Oregon. It was quiet, green, full of foggy mornings and long silent evenings, the kind of place where pain hides in plain sight. I met people there who looked just like my uncle, in face, but in soul, people who were once teachers, artists, builders, dreamers, and now were just trying to survive the day. Some were clean for years, some had relapsed 10 times, some still whispered for what was killing them, but all of them were human. And that's what the world forgets. When they judge addicts, they forget they are people. They had birthdays, they had parents, they had hope and laughter and favorite songs. But addiction doesn't care. It steals everything that makes you you. Even your voice doesn't sound like yours anymore. There was a man there named Elliot. He was in his 50s, quiet, smart, used to be a professor, had a daughter, hadn't seen her in years. He told me once the last thing she ever said to him was, "I don't want to watch you disappear." And he said he didn't understand what she meant until one morning he looked in the mirror and couldn't see himself anymore, just a stranger with his eyes. He cried when he told me that, not loudly, just one tear falling down a tired cheek, and he said, "If you ever love someone enough to fight for them, don't wait until they're gone." That line broke something in me. It made me realize this isn't just about drugs, it's about time, it's about silence, it's about choosing to care while you still can. I kept volunteering for 3 years, and every story, every person, added another layer to the moment. I saw my uncle dying on that bed. It wasn't just a story anymore, it was 1,000 voices saying, "Help me," before I forget how to ask. Now, speak in schools. I tell this story not to scare, but to remind, to warn, to beg in a different way. Not for poison, but for attention, for care, for connection. Because sometimes that's all it takes to save a life. One real conversation, one look, one hug, one voice saying, "I see you, I hear you, you matter." And every time I finish, I see the faces of teenagers who look like they've never been heard, who look like they're standing at the edge, and I hope I can be the voice that pulls them back. Even if it's just one of them, it's worth everything. So if you're listening, remember, this addiction doesn't begin with evil, it begins with escape, and the world is full of people trying to escape pain, fear, shame, silence. Don't be the reason someone jumps, be the reason they hold on. And if you are the one slipping, don't wait for the bottom, don't wait until you're a whisper in someone's memory. Say something, ask, scream. You have to, because the world will hear you if you don't stop speaking. And maybe, just maybe, your last words won't be a plea for poison, but a promise to live.